What's happening, everybody? I'm back. It's me, Resident Supervillain, Mr. J. Washington. I'm here with my review for the pilot episode of Superman and Lois on the CW. Now, if you have not seen this episode yet, come on back because there will be spoilers. I am redoing this because I said a couple things that I wasn't correct on. Because why? Medication and back pain. I'm on all the muscle relaxers and all the back pain pills because I had to go to the emergency room on Sunday. So when I recorded this, I was like, oh yeah. And then I'm kind of loopy, so I'm still out of it. But I wanted to get this right for y'all, and I apologize for that. I had some hopes about this going into this. I had some hopes and some concerns, if you will. At first, when they said they were bringing in Superman off of the Supergirl series, I was like, yo, let Supergirl stand on her own. You know, stop mentioning Clark. I know you all are using Clark's villains and Superman villains to build her story, but let her stand on her own. Cool. Then they finally decided to introduce him, and we're getting Tyler Hoechlin. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's see how far this goes. Then we started using them more and more. Then we go forward. You know, things are happening. We have all the different crossovers. We get to Crisis. Before Crisis, we find out they're going to do a World's Finest crossover with Batwoman, who was Ruby Rose at the time, and Melissa Benoist's Supergirl. Cool. Then we get the announcement that Ruby Rose is left, but they're still going to do it with the new Batwoman. But then you find out Supergirl is ending, and then they're going to do it with Superman. And like, okay, how's it going to work? Then you find out we're getting the Superman and Lois series, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Whatever. Cool and confusing at the same time. But then things changed after Crisis on Infinite Earths, where, especially when it comes to Superman and Lois, instead of having one son after Crisis, he now has twin boys. So I'm like, okay, cool. This is the new world after Crisis with the multiverses merged and, you know, them not knowing fully yet that there's still multiverses and whatnot. But we move forward. So when I see this, I'm like, okay, hopefully they will do like most of the other shows are going to do and address the events of Crisis somehow, some way to explain the change in life. And so when the series kicks off, we go back to Superman's origins and everything and see him in his golden age suit. And thanks, my mom made it for me. You know, all these references. And it's still Tyler Hoechlin. And then we go forward. We see him, you know, having the boys. He has to try to juggle being Superman, Clark Kent, and a father and a husband, which are all different jobs. And he's having kind of a difficult time doing it because, as we see, like I said in the beginning, we see him having to stop a nuclear reactor from going into meltdown by taking a whole chunk of a glacier and dunking it in a, you know, using it to cool down a nuclear reactor. But you have that, and then you also have the relationship with Superman and Lois's father, who's like basically General Lane's like, yo, I'm gonna need you for this, blah, 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 blah. We discovered the boys, the twins, Jonathan and Jordan. Now, from the way we break down the kids, you would think they're showing you Jonathan, who's an extreme athlete, a quarterback. He can throw the ball like crazy. So you're like, oh, he has abilities. And then we talk about Jordan, and Jordan has social anxiety disorder. He goes through night terrors. He's experiencing mental health issues. He's going through therapy. And I said this in my other review, and I'll say this again. The CW has been always good on tackling real life issues, no matter how they may come forth. And I understand that the channel within itself is the teenager, young adult, overall generation it's marketed to. But it's good to tackle issues like this because, again, we hear kids dealing with these issues nowadays. We hear of adults dealing with them. Over on Black Lightning, you have Jefferson in therapy. And it's not just marital therapy. It's therapy individually as well. But to see this, and you see Jordan having to take pills and all this, and you have it addressed, and you have Lois even address it to Clark trying to address it to his son, where at one point, Clark is trying to connect with his son, and because he's finding it hard to do so. You know, again, his son is dealing with issues, and he can't connect with his son as much because he always says his job takes him away, being a reporter at the Daily Planet, when that's not exactly it. It's the fact that he's Superman, and he's needed all around the world. But when we're watching this, you get to thinking, okay, so Jonathan has abilities, Jordan doesn't, right? It's one of the things you see. First, I forgot to mention number one overall thing I like about this. It is shot with the HBO Max cameras, which give it a very cinematic feel, very movie-like feel, and which is good because the CW shows all have a CW look normally. We all know that. We know from the Arrowverse shows you can look at a television show. But if you started watching things like Doom Patrol on HBO Max when they started that, and then now how Stargirl is going to get the HBO Max type cameras, you see the difference in the quality. It may not change the story as a whole, but it changes the look and the feel, so it draws you in more. But I like the fact you had a part where you had Jordan was playing Mortal Kombat versus DC. and he had Raiden whooping Superman's ass, and he tells his father Superman is boring. It was one of those little cute, quirky moments. Here's the issue. I'm not gonna go bit by bit. Basically, we find out that one of the twins does have powers, and it was the one no one expected. It was Jordan. Jordan has it in a moment of heightened rage where he's at a rave and he meets Sarah. He sees Sarah Cushing. He's trying to talk to her. He kisses her. Her boyfriend intercedes, proceeds to get ready to whoop his ass. Jonathan jumps in, gets his ass whooped. Jordan snaps out, eye lasers, boom, explosion, right? Now, Jordan's freaking out. So this is after they find Clark's ship in the barn of the farm on Smallville because they had to go back, which I have to say, the family lives in Metropolis, the Kent family, but they have to move back to, they go back to Smallville after Martha dies. Now, you knew Martha was going to die in this episode when it happened, before it even happened, because you saw the conversation Clark had on the phone with his mother. And the conversation, she's talking and she's coughing and has these symptoms is like something's wrong. You kind of can tell something's going to happen. But I need you all to pay attention to what's in the background, where on the chalkboard it says call Siegel and Schuster, the creators of Superman. And then you also see Dr. Donner, Richard Donner, the directors of Superman 1 and 2. So I like those nods and odes and the different things like that. I do have an issue, though, with the fact, why is Clark's ship still in that barn? Like, I get it. You don't expect nobody to own the Kent farm. You don't expect that land to go nowhere and stay in the family. You ain't never got to go nowhere with it. Cool. But situations like what happened. Morgan Edge buys out all this stuff. Now Morgan Edge and the bank own the Kent farm in the show. So what's to say they didn't come through there with a bulldozer quickly, find this ship and be like, you want to explain some shit? But I digress. After trying to reset the modem, which is in the barn, out of all places for the modem to be, is in the barn. I never understood that one. I guess that's supposedly how you get a wider range of coverage, but like, wouldn't the signal have to go through the barn to the house, and wouldn't that cut the signal off? Like, I'm dealing with internet issues with Spectrum, so I just couldn't put two and two together with that. But when Jordan is trying to go up to reset the modem, a bunch of steel beams fall, steel cylinders or whatever fall, or him and Jonathan, Clark runs in, super strength throws it off. They only have a few mild concussions. That's it. No bruises or anything. So at that moment, it's the assumption that Jonathan protected Jordan. Jordan doesn't have the abilities of earlier, right? I was tripping out when the fact you found out there's Ubers and Lyfts in Smallville. I was like, yo, that's kind of dope. Okay, I guess it. If they can have a modem in a barn, then whatever. We found out the stranger, the person that's been stalking Clark, causing all these nuclear meltdowns, is actually Captain Luthor, played by Wale Parks. And it had always been said when he was cast that the stranger would be a version of Lex Luthor. We didn't know for sure, but we got our confirmation. I have mixed feelings on this, and here's why. On this show as a whole, I wanted them to address Crisis. I need them to sit there and say, yo, I need Clark to be a Lois, like, yo, am I not tripping, or did we only have one kid at one point? Like, because, was it in Flash or Supergirl? Or, yeah, that John says he went around to all of the heroes who were involved in Crisis and unlocked their memories. So Clark should know, unless we're looking at this Lois and Superman and Lois are of another multiverse, of another universe, unless they're not directly connected with this. It's confusing on me. Also, the story of the teens don't get along with their dad. After finding out one has powers, the dad finally reveals to him that he's Superman. And the way he reveals himself is he takes off his glasses, of course, and lifts up a truck. Now, everybody has seen Superman, right? And Superman doesn't wear glasses, right? Now, everybody knows, okay, for some reason, people can't tell the difference between Clark Kent and Superman because of glasses. However, that is your daddy. You live with this man. You are not going to tell me that your father walks around all day, every day, 24/7 with glasses on, and you've never once looked and be like, hey, you look kind of like dude. Like, nobody's ever thought about that? Nobody? I mean, I get we're going to go through the drama of now not only dealing with Captain Luthor, the stranger for Superman, he has to deal with one of his sons having powers, and it's the one that has mental health issues. It's the one that's in therapy, the one that has to take pills and all this shit. The other one is just a good athlete. I understand the levels and the structure they're trying to bring to the show, But it's just kind of confusing, you know. Who becomes the bad guys? Are there multiple bad guys that if eventually Clark has to enlist his son to help, or his son decides to help his own? Does Jordan become Superboy? Does Jonathan later develop powers that just haven't manifested yet? You know, things like that. Also, again, is this a multiverse? I also want to know, there was a writer, I don't know if you guys heard of the controversy. One of the writers, she was removed from the show. She had written her episodes, and because she wanted to take out a lot of misogynistic, racist, and sexist jokes that were in the show. And I want to know what exactly those were. There's a lot of different things about this. I'm going to try to follow this show as best as I can, along with following everything else I do. I do want to see where it develops, but for me personally, like I said, the biggest thing is I need the crisis thing acknowledged, because that's the big thing going forth with all these shows. The Flash had to acknowledge it, because the Flash's entire existence as a show, in a sense, was based off Crisis, after we saw the first introduction of Eobard Thawne, right? And then, you know, Oliver Queen's show, and even Supergirl, Batwoman, Legends of Tomorrow does it. But this changed in such a way, it was almost reminiscent to the Arrow change, where Diggle had a son first, then got changed to a daughter. You remember all that when Barry did Flashpoint. So I just want that to be acknowledged. Again, if the shots are still the same, if it's still shot cinematically, and the look is still the same throughout the series, it can still pull you in, but I need the story. There are some diehard Superman fans who, you know, no matter the story, you get a good storytelling of Superman, and you're here for it no matter what. But I just want to know, what more do we have? I need to know, how big is this going to go? How expansive can this be, if that makes sense, all right? But I want to know your thoughts in the comments below. So leave them down there, all right? Let's get a good discussion going down there. And while you're here, like this video, subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell so you find out when I'm dropping more videos, all right? Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. J Washington, M-R-J-A-Y. You should know how to spell Washington. You really should. Check out the Mad Titan podcast. I'm going to drop a new episode of that very soon. It's where I get you caught up in all the things happening in the Marvel and DC live action and cinematic universes. It's Barbershop Talk for Nerds and Blurs in the Hood. Every Tuesday and Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. on the East Coast. Myself and Winston A. Marshall. This ain't just regular, just nerd show. What it is we talk about pop culture, entertainment, news, sports, politics, and a whole lot more from a blurred's perspective. 2 black nerds, but we are unapologetically black. You might want to make sure you're part of that, all right? YouTube.com/BLERDS, the letter NTHEHOOD, all right? I will holler at you guys next week, probably for episode 2. Take care. I'm out. Bye.